Good morning and welcome back to Margin. This morning we're going to talk about my thoughts on minimalism. So let's jump right into it. So about 6 years ago now, there was a documentary put out by Netflix called Minimalism. So minimalism actually started quite the movement of minimalists who followed follow a certain way of life, a certain approach to life. Now, originally, these two founders basically found themselves in their late 20s, climbing the corporate ladder, acquiring stuff to try to make them happy, but found a lot of it to be just unfulfilling. And so they went on this journey to show people a different way of living. So the storyline talks about how we are constantly on the chase due to discontentment. So we are chasing after buying products and services that end up filling our homes and storage units that don't actually add value, that don't actually add fulfillment, but just give us something else to be distracted by. And so it talks a lot about advertising and the focus of advertising in actually having an impact on our purchasing behavior. Now, this purchasing behavior of minimalism specifically focuses in on making sure that your purchases have a purpose, to make sure that you are not buying something just because some advertisement told you to, or some neighbor told you to, or a colleague accordingly, but that you are buying it with purpose, with intentionality, and buying those things that really do matter most to you. So the documentary talks about the increasing availability or access to stuff and how that stuff is multiplied by increasing the sizes of our homes and our storage units, and yet not necessarily bringing us joy. And so having that thought process of buying with intentionality, with a level of joy that comes from that purchase, and with a purpose with it, so that we're not just blindly filling up the homes and storage units we have with needless stuff that then we have to maintain. So this movement has caused many people to run the other way from this ultra consumerism mindset. And in this movement, you have found different subsects of people who have methodologies around paying for something when you can afford to buy it, rather than what payment you can afford at a given point in time. So one of the commentators talks about how our relationship with things is not the best, and the fact that our things own us rather than us owning our things. And I previously mentioned that in a prior episode of how to evaluate things from a standpoint of making sure that your things you own intentionally, but those things don't own you. Those things aren't controlling you. So they speak of life being ultimately more than bills and money and work, but actually focused in on what contribution someone brings rather than what they've accumulated. And actually having a proper relationship with stuff, proper relationship with things that you buy, and keeping that in perspective in regards to who you are. Now, there are a lot of movements around minimalism, and whether it's tiny house living, or it is the FIRE movement, or a number of different aspects, you can see these various movements that have a different shift or different viewpoint, but is closely related to living life very differently than what is traditionally seen as Americans. And so when we are looking at a documentary that came out now 6 years ago and a corresponding book on minimalism, it can be easy to see where they were coming from at the time, but how much things have accelerated or only accelerated since that time in American consumerism. So what we've experienced even in the last year is a magnification of the concerns that this documentary puts forth. And what we've seen is household incomes are steadily increasing, but housing prices are quickly escaping the affordability of the average American household. And then beyond that, basically, people have gone out and used stimulus to buy new cars, to buy more stuff, to invest in markets, and it has had this ripple effect of consumerism in a time when you would think that people would be pulling back. Now, I believe that some of this is because some of the fears around a recession have subsided, and some people are coping with the challenges over the last year with purchasing and with making their environments as best as they can, improving their environments to the best ability they can. But also from that standpoint, they are taking an approach where they see, the government stepping in and printing money, causing for real-time inflation to occur, and people frantically buying things in order to purchase them before they get more expensive. And so what you're seeing is almost like a process of people speeding up the process of hyper-consumerism. And so they're speeding up the process of buying even more than they were before. And of course, I understand that certain subsects of the economy have been hit harder than others, and certain ones may be excelling forward while others are dying off, and I understand that. But as a society as a whole, the biggest concern is the fact that this consumerism, this concern that was laid out by the minimalists, has only sped up, has only increased. So with the tagline of living a meaningful life that the minimalism movement has, I think it is important, whether you are a minimalist, whether you live a very simple life, or you prefer to buy things with a great deal of intentionality, or if you live life, very much so in line with the American lifestyle, that you actually evaluate not only the impact of those decisions, but also whether that lifestyle that you're living is because of influences outside of yourself, or if that is something that you've actually chosen to live life out in that manner. And so I bring this up in particular because I've seen a huge shift in the last year of people being less and less cautious and more bullish when it comes to consumerism. And so although we have all heard of the minimalist movement, we may not have figured out how that aligns and how things have shifted, how things have sped up, even since that was published, even since that movement was started. So my call to action today comes down to looking at your current lifestyle, looking at it from the lens of what you think you need or want from a lifestyle standpoint versus what society, what advertising, what colleagues or friends or neighbors have impressed upon you that should be important and meaningful to you. If this information is helpful to you, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you're reminded to come back on a daily basis and improve in managing your personal finances. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your day. We'll see you back here tomorrow.